Well, shalom, everybody. Praise Yahawah, the Father and His Son, Yahweh Mashiach, who gave His life and shed His blood for us, for our salvation. Today is, today is the 9th month on the Hebrew calendar, the last day, I think, of the month. We had, on the 18th of December, which is the Gregorian calendar, is the 25th of Cashapp, which is the 9th month of the Hebrew calendar. On that day, on the 18th of this month of December, which is pagan, the 25th of Cashapp, which is Hebrew, we had the beginning of the Feast of Dedication, or Hanukkah. All right. And we are not only in the season of a pagan festival, but we are in the season of a biblical, ancient festival that even Yahawah, the son of Yahawah, observed his own self. All right. It's not written in the Torah, but it's written in the book of Maccabees, and if Yahawah observed it in the book of John, let me see if I can find that. John, let's see, hold on just a moment. In the book of John, Yahawah observed it. That means he came all the way from Galilee, and it was right there in the temple. Let's see here. Okay. John 10:22. And it says, and it was at Jerusalem, the Feast of Dedication. All right, Jerusalem, the Feast of Dedication, and which is what we call Hanukkah. Let me see if I can find that real quick. They got Greek 1456 on that feast. Let's see if it says Hanukkah in the Greek. Let's see. It can, yeah. I don't know if that sounds like Hanukkah or not. But anyway, as you can see right here on the screen, if you're looking at it, or if you got your own Bibles, Feast of Dedication. Now in the Hebrew, you look up the word dedication, it might say Hanukkah. But right in the Greek, it's something different. But it was at Jerusalem, the Feast of Dedication, and it was winter. All right, so letting you know that there's winter in Israel, even though it's a hot climate. And I've even seen some videos of it snowing in Jerusalem. But it was winter, and Jesus walked, or Yahawah walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. Then came the Jews round about him and said unto him, How long dost thou make us to doubt? If thou be the Christ, tell us plainly. All right, so basically, he was speaking to them in parables and everything because they were not the people. They were not his sheep, in other words. And this is what you got to be careful about. So Yahawah, or Yahawah speaks in parables a lot of times about the mysteries of the kingdom. And if you're not ready, your mind is not set. These things he might speak them plainly to you, you might not catch it, or he might speak them in parables on purpose, where you won't catch it until a certain time. That's happened to me so many times in my life where Yah has hidden something from me for a particular time. All right. And so this Feast of Dedication is right here in the Bible. It's right there in the New Testament scriptures, because the feast, the situation that caused Hanukkah to take place didn't happen until about 100 and so years before Yahawah was born on the earth. all right, hundreds, so many years when the Greek Antiochus Epiphanes wanted to have all nations come up under Greek customs and came into Jerusalem to our people. You know, don't let nobody make you think during this Christmas season when they have a white Jesus, white Mary, white Joseph, that it was another people. It was us. And he wanted to have us celebrate his God. He built a temple in Jerusalem. Zeus Olympios is what it was called, and had the people had the Jews basically trying to adapt or take on Greek customs, and they were successful for a little while until they upset some of the priests. And that's where we get the story Hanukkah or Maccabees, because Judas Maccabee's father, Simon, I think his name was Simon or Matthew, killed one of the Jews that was bound down to a Greco god that was trying to sacrifice to the Greek god. He killed him right in front of the Greeks. And that set off the storm that we got, where eventually the book of Maccabees was written. And the whole situation, whole story took place because some priests of Israel, the Levite priests, were not having it. And they was willing to sacrifice their lives to continue to keep Yahawah's laws and his temple holy. All right. So you can see why Yahawah was right there at this feast, the dedication. Okay. So it is a special time of year. It happens every year. The feast of dedication or Hanukkah will be sometime around Christmas. All right. And Christmas is an ancient pagan festival, no matter how they try to clean it up and make it holy. Okay, we cannot make anything holy. If Yah didn't make it holy, there's no way we can make it holy, all right? But Christmas was really a pagan custom called Saturnalia, and worship of Saturn and all of that, what it entails. And Santa Claus used to be a demon, or a demon-looking person. Put it that way, I think he still is a demon. But he was a demon-looking person early on in history. And then, just recently they dressed him up as a jolly, fat white man with a beard and a red suit on. All right, now I grew up as a kid. Now I don't blame my parents for not knowing what we know today, because a lot of this knowledge that we getting today is old, but then it's brand new again. We literally as a people we are remembering ourselves who we really are. But in the generation before, even in just one generation beforehand, you go and talk to some people and say, hey, we the real Jews. They say, oh, get out of here. The real Jews are those folks over there in Israel. Just one generation. But you go talk to some people today, even today, this day right here, and you're gonna get I think we really are those people. And there's a shaking going on in the world. It's shaking not only our people, it's shaking the fake Jews, or the ones that converted hundreds of years ago to this faith, to Judaism, put it that way. It's shaking a lot of things, all right? And I'm glad to see it happen. All right, if you go on the internet, you just get on YouTube, you press in there, Kanye or Kyrie, and you're gonna see that war. It's a war going on. Okay, it's been going on for hundreds and thousands of years, though, but it's really coming to a climax now. All right, the war between the real Jews and the nations of the earth. It's been going on for hundreds of thousands of years. All right. So this war that you see with, that you just press in on YouTube, somewhere on Twitter, Kanye or Kyrie, and you see a lot of Jewish people that's got videos out there complaining or trying to play this thing down, or you got Hebrew Israelites that are basically woke up. That's been, some of them been telling you these things for years, but now is the time where the platform is really bright, where everybody's starting to see. Why are they upset at this man saying he's a Jew? He's not anti-Semitic because he is a Jew. Why are they upset with Kyrie for posting a video of Hebrews to Negroes when this whole situation about Kanye was going on? And he didn't say anything, he just posted the video. But because he is a famous basketball player and can reach a lot of people, all right, and then he did not denounce the video, but he says, I cannot be anti-Semitic because I know who I am. Basically saying he's a Jew, just like Kanye. Now he really done it. He stepped in some stuff that he didn't want to step in. All right. And if you're really looking at this and you're really studying this, you do have to question, why are these people so upset that he just posted a video?
Mm-hmm.
All right. You really have to really look at that. That should open up your understanding. If you're very discerning and you've been studying this Bible for a while, you should now start to be 2 and 2 should be being added together to equal 4. All right, and I've been studying this thing for years, and I've been a Hebrew Israelite in belief since 1990. And I remember back in those days, people were still looking at me strange because I was saying we were Jews. All right, and I come around and God had manifested himself to me as a Jew. All right, and I was wondering why he manifested himself to me as that. But then I found out the reason why, because he was trying to tell me what my history really was. All right, and I was I was at the time when like I said, people would think of you crazy for basically being woke. Okay, and it's now a little bit different than that now. People now starting to wake up, everybody, especially among our people. And really, we should be happy. I've been praying for this for years. And we should be happy and glad that it's starting to happen. All right. And sooner or later that we would bethink ourselves among the nations. All right. And let me go to this Deuteronomy chapter 30. We bethink ourselves among the nations. We'd be among the nations not knowing who we were, because the nations would take our identity away from us when they carried us into captivity. All right. And and then they sit around and say, why are these Black folks, these Hispanic people, these Native Americans so crazy? Well, you take your identity and your history and your land away from you, everything that's valuable to you away, and how would you be acting? All right. Just think of that. Just thinking it hits both male and female alike, but the king of these people, it hit him the hardest. All right, because it was sins of violating the laws of Yah that got us into this predicament. All right, violating his laws, the laws of Moses, if you would, that got us into this situation. Let me do something with this screen up here for a second where I can navigate a bit better. But it was our sins. And you might say, well, what about the other nations' sins? Well, the other nations' sins, Yah did not make a covenant with them. And that's the issue. We're the chosen people. So the chosen people are gonna have much more, uh, they're gonna have much more, what you call, let me see, what word can I use for that? Responsibility in the eyesight of God. If you're chosen and God has revealed himself to you, out of all nations on the face of the earth, you're gonna have more of a responsibility when it comes to knowing God, when it comes to obeying him and keeping his laws and his commandments, especially if he gave his laws directly to you. And that's what happened to our people. He gave his laws directly to us. And we were stiff-necked and hard-hearted and all of that. And it only took a century or two for us to really basically be, uh, cast away from Yah. And we saw in 70 AD, our temple was destroyed and we were scattered among the nations. All right. But when we were scattered among the nations in 70 AD, we still knew who we were. It wasn't until the 1400s when the Christian Pope wanted to do something about these Black Jews. And I'd say Black Jews. That's when I would say Jews are Black Jews, Black Hebrew Israelites, to show you his mindset, the Pope. I think his name was Nicholas, it's on 1400s. And he set off what is it called? It'll come to me in a moment. But he started persecuting these people because they would not convert to Catholicism. They were Jews. And you study this, I saw it in school when I was studying in school as a teenager, as a young man, as a kid, when they talked about the Inquisition, is what it's called, the Inquisition. They didn't tell you what color these Jews were that was in Spain and Portugal, all right? They just said that Christopher Columbus was going into the Western world to find some living place, a place where the Jews was being kicked out of Spain and Portugal, they could go. All right, and then they said Christopher Columbus just happened upon the Americas. He didn't know he was going to the Americas, but thought he was going to India, and then he found America. So which one is it? Was he trying to find a new homeland for the Jews that's being kicked out of Spain and Portugal, or was he just going to India and then found America? I heard so many things on that, but what I think is, it's like the movie 1492. If you've never seen that movie, just look it up, 1492. And the movie explains that he knew that America existed over there, that these new lands existed. And when he went before Isabella and whatever the other guy's name, when he went before them to present his case to go to the Americas, to be financed to get to the Americas in ships. Well, one of the things that he was going to tell them was that the book of Esdras explains that the Israelites, the 10 northern tribes, had already went there, And I'm not going to go too far into this, but he was basically understanding. Is written in history that Christopher Columbus knew that the 10 northern tribes was already in the Americas. Okay, and that's in the movie. All right. But when I was a kid in school, they told us about the Inquisition, about the Jews being kicked out of Spain and Portugal. And then after that, 1400s, you don't hear anything else about them. It even slips your mind because they didn't tell you anything about what happened to the Jews. So you don't think about it because you're thinking the Jews are these folks over there in Europe somewhere. All right. But that's part of mind manipulation. What happened to those Jews in Spain and Portugal? Well, they eventually wind up over the Americas. Okay, they eventually wind up over here as slaves. That's what happened, all right? And now we're starting to find this out. But let me read this, Deuteronomy 30. And it came to pass, and it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the cursing. Now, when you read the book of Deuteronomy 28, it tells you the blessings for keeping Yah's, for Israel keeping Yah's laws, and it tells you the curses, all right? The blessing and the curse, all right? Here's the thing to this. You see a lot of Hebrew Israelites using the curse as to explain who the Israelites are among the nations. And here it is right here. It says, when all these things have come upon thee, the blessing and the curse. So you look in Deuteronomy chapter 28, the first 15 verses tell you the blessings that will come upon Israel for keeping his commandments. All right. And then after verse 15, I think it's verse 15, verse 16, it starts telling you the curses that would come upon Israel for not keeping Yahweh's laws and statutes and commandments. These curses go all the way to, from verse 15, go all the way to 68, the 68th verse, where it says, then the Lord shall bring thee again into Egypt, in which, he told you you'd never see that again. You should be led captive into Egypt and sold to your enemies as bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. That's verse 68. But for all the way from verse 15 to 68, the curse, it tells you the curses. Now, when you look in there, you see all of the things that have come upon these so-called Native Americans, African Americans, okay, Hispanic and Latino people. You know what I'm saying? You see all of the things that have come upon these people, especially Judah, the black folks. All right, the African American people. You betroth a wife and another man will lie with her, and your children will be taken away from you, and there'll be no power in your hand to do anything about it. All of these things that happened to these people in slavery is from verse 15 to verse 68, including being taken to Egypt, being taken to this country over here in ships. So right here, Moses is telling us, after he warns us about what would happen to us for disobeying Yah's commandments, all right? Then he tells us what would happen after we got this thing back right, because it says, and it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, which we now are, starting to realize, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind. All right? Thou shalt call them to mind among all nations, whether Yahawah thy Alahyim has driven thee. And this is what's going on today. So what you see going on with Kanye, Kyrie, all right, is that Yah is causing Israel to wake up and to bethink themselves. I think he's going to say that in here, where they're going to bethink themselves. All right, but I'm going to highlight this, which I've set before thee, and y'all shall call them to mind among all the nations where the Yahawah thy Alahyim has driven thee, and shall return unto Yahawah thy Alahyim, and obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, and with all thine heart, with all thy soul, that then Yahawah thy Alahyim will turn thy captivity, and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all nations where the Yahawah thy Alahyim has scattered thee. And we've been scattered more than just in the Americas, all right, on this Western hemisphere. We're all over the place. All right, we in Arabia. All right, we're still mostly in Africa. There's some of us in the Orient, with the China and Japan and Korea, Australia, Europe, Germany. We all over the place. We're all over all nations. All right, even in Israel, some of us. All right, and but thou shalt return unto Yahawah thy Alahyim, and shalt obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children with all thy heart and with all thy soul, that then Yahawah. And here's the key to this. Here's the key. And I want to, and you know me, I talk on this person right here, Yahawah thy Alahyim. Because a lot of times Christianity has taught us to take him lightly. All right. And for one thing, I'm gonna be honest with you, for years, I saw the Lamb of God, the one that's his son, Yahawah Shai Mashiach, as being Yahawah himself. All right, because Christianity taught me that. You know, Christianity kind of leaned me toward that direction. I could have studied better and come out of it. But I took Yahawah Shai as, or Jesus as this person right here, Yahawah, the Alahyim. But, if you go to Revelation chapter 4, it talks about this person that sits on the throne. Revelation chapter 5, it talks about the Lamb that is on the right hand of this person right here. All right. And for a while, I was teaching folks that Jesus was God with this person, but he was in the garden praying to somebody else, praying to somebody that was not him. Or was he him? Yeah, praying to his own self, but he's in there, get ready to die, And, some people saw me preaching that and question. Now, if you want to question somebody's sanity or whether they are really right about their thinking on something, it's that right there. And really, I was just teaching what I had learned from others. All right, and I just accepted as true. But in actuality, this person right here, Yahawah the Alahyim, is a different person than Jesus Christ. All right. And to be honest with you, Jesus Christ is not this person here. And you're worshiping Jesus Christ. It is to a certain degree what you would call idolatry. Now, will Yahawah forgive folks for that type of idolatry? Yeah, because Yahawah Shai is the express image of this person right here. So what we got with Yahawah Shai, hold on just a moment. I see why it took Yahawah so long to break it down to me. Hey, that Jesus is not the Lord thy God. And so it took a while for him to break it down to me, because really it's not that far off, but Jesus is not Yahawah the Alahyim. But he is the express image of him. Well, how can I explain that? Well, if you have a son, if a man has a son, and that son is just like him, and this is an example, an earthly example of it, then basically you can look at that son and saying that he's that, especially if the father's gone, he's not in the world any longer. You can say this is the express image of him, of this person. All right, he's the express image. In other words, but with Yahawah Shai, it's different. Let me see if I can explain it. With Yahawah Shai, with Jesus is the perfect image of Yahawah the Alahyim. All right, it's a perfect image of him without being him. And that's why, when I've been teaching, going to the previous videos, and I often will alert you back to the previous videos, that when Yahawah created the heavens and the earth, he created his son. He created the one that we now know of his son, Jesus Christ. Created him first. The first thing that Yah created was Yahawah Shai. And when he created him, he put him on, just like you put on your clothes in the morning. When Yahawah created Yahawah Shai, which he was not named Yahawah Shai when he created him. When he created him, he was Alahyim, he put this person on. That's why you got in John chapter 1, in the beginning was the Word, and we're talking about in the beginning of Yah's creation. Now, Yah does not have a beginning nor an end, but in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. So the Word that Yah created, this person that he created, which was really turned out to be Jesus, was with God, was with Yahawah, and he was Yahawah. So how was he Yahawah? Is when Yahawah put Yahawah Shai on. He put him on, all right? Yahawah, who is the invisible God, put Yahawah Shai on, and they went out and started creating everything. That's what happened. So Yahawah did not start creating anything until he put Yahawah Shai on. So when you say that he's the express image of Yahawah's person, that's how he is. Basically, he's just like him. He's used to being put on by Yahawah and used by Yahawah. That's what he was created for. Okay? He was created to be used by Yahawah, for Yahawah to put him on, as if that Yahawah is him. All right? That's what happened there. Okay? All right, so this Yahawah the Alahyim is not Yahawah Shai. The rich young ruler come to Yahawah Shai and said, "Good master, what good thing must I do to have eternal life?" And Yahawah Shai looked at him, and I didn't understand this until I understood what I know now. Why he asked him, "Why callest thou me good? There's none good but God." You know, you couldn't have told me that years back that he was not saying that he was not God. But when I look at it now, he was telling the rich young ruler that the only one that's good is the Creator, the one that created him. Not that Yahawah Shai was not going to be perfected on the cross and be the perfect sacrifice, but he was worshiping this person right here. Yahawah Shai was worshiping Yahawah the Alahyim. So he told the man that I'm not good. The only one that's good is Yahawah the Alahyim. All right. And if we're going to be perfected just like Yahawah Shai, we have to come to that conclusion that Yahawah the Alahyim is the one that's good. Okay. But he's Yahawah the Alahyim, our Alahyim, is getting ready to turn our captivity. And that's why we should be happy. We should really be feeling good. We should get ready to dance a jig. All right, because look what's going on out there. The very thing that the enemy has been doing for hundreds of years to keep our people in captivity is now being turned on this upside down. So what did the enemy do to keep our people in captivity? For one thing, they took our history away from us as being the Jews. And then they took it unto themselves and said, they the Jews. Even to the point of occupying a land over there that's supposed to be ours. All right, whether that land is ours or not, or how much of it is, or whatever, that's a whole nother story. But say like that land is ours, they took over our land. They took our identity and our land. All right, and they got us in captivity with an identity called Black. Okay, they got us in captivity with an identity that's called Black. Now, what country does Black live in? Blackians, or whatever you want to call them. Blackians, they just say Black. But we're going to put the "en" on the back of it, just like we say Korean, Jamaican, or whatever. Okay, but what country does Blackian people live? What nation is Blackian? Okay, there's no Blackian nation. So where did we come from? So the whole thing is to get you off of the topic of where these people that were slaves in America come from. Because if you find out what nation they come from, the whole conspiracy would be turned on upside down on its head. What the devil has been doing among the nations for the last few hundred years is ruined. The jig is up, in other words. Okay, and that's what's going on. The jig is up because the people have woke up. The people are waking up. All right, the jig is up. I hate to say, well, I have to say it. I love to say it, and I have to say it. The jig is up. All right. So you'll see a lot of people that are teachers, rabbinical teachers, that are trying to explain this. And nobody can. I'm gonna tell you like this. I'm gonna put it this way. Nobody can stand against these Hebrew Israelite brothers on the street corners with their doctrine. Nobody, none of them can stand against them. Okay. You get into a biblical debate. One of these rabbis that converted hundreds of years ago, there was people who were converted to Judaism hundreds of years ago, try to debate with these Hebrew Israelites on the street corner. The only thing they got on them is that they probably know a little bit more about the language. And one other thing, I'm gonna tell you one other thing that they got on the Hebrew Israelites. It was what we've been talking about here. And that's why I talk about this a lot. It's this person right here, Yahawah, our Alahyim. They know more about him. They know more about what he's getting ready to do. All right. And what I mean by that? Well, let me say this again. Let me read this last part again. It shall come to pass when all of these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all nations, whether Yahawah thy Alahyim has driven thee, and shall return unto Yahawah thy Alahyim, and shall obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children with all thy heart and with all thy soul, that then Yahawah thy Alahyim will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will, guess what? He will return and gather thee from all, what? Now, here's what the European, I'm not gonna say their name, the converted Jews know that most of the Hebrew Israelites are not aware of right now. I'm gonna get into this topic today. That Yahawah the Alahyim is gonna return. That means he took a vacation. He went on a long journey. Okay, but he will return and gather thee from all nations with the Yahawah the Alahyim and scatter thee. Okay, what is this return thing? Let's look at this. Hebrews 77:25. Turn back, transitively or intransitively, literally or figuratively, to the ideas of returning. Not necessarily with the idea of return to the starting point, generally to retreat, often adverbially again. So wait a minute. What's going to happen then? Let's get to this point. What's going to happen? Well, what happens is, and what the European, okay, I'm going to say their name, what the converted Jews, all right, know that most of the Hebrew Israelites are still on the process of getting to know. All right. Now watch this. This person right here is going to be among us. All right. How is it going to be among us? Is it going to be just an invisible presence? No. Is he literally going to be a physical person? Because, you know, in John chapter 4, when Jesus or Yahawah was talking to the woman at the well, he explained to her, he said, God is the spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and truth. So we get the idea that God is really, you can't see him, you can't touch him, you know? He's just a spirit. But if you read the scriptures a little further down, and you kind of get away from the pork chop preaching, all right? Who's just telling you that God, you can't see him and touch him and all of that. Or they might say Jesus is God. All right, get away from that pork chop preaching. And you read down a little further, you'll see that it says that this person right here, Yahawah our Alahyim, is going to dwell among us. It's going to dwell among Israel. As a matter of fact, it calls, in many cases, Yahawah our Alahyim, it calls him Yahawah the Alahyim of Israel, Yahawah Alahyim of Israel. All right? It does call him that, all in the scripture. I'm kind of lazy to go there right now to show you the scripture. But it says Yahawah Alahyim of Israel. If Yahawah Alahyim is of Israel, all right, that should tell us something right there. It's a manifestation telling us that in the end, Yahawah Alahyim is going to be with Israel. It's going to be of Israel. It's going to be among Israel. Now, this is not going to be of any other nation. He's not going to be in any other nation. It's going to be with Israel. So are you saying, Malak, that Yahawah Alahyim literally going to be in a human body dwelling amongst us? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And the scripture says that, and that's what the European, let me just say it, the European Jews say that too. But they call this person right here, when he comes down to live amongst Israel, he called him a Mashiach. But this is the reason why they don't believe that Jesus or Yahawah is the Messiah. All right. I used to wonder why, all of that evidence that Jesus was who he was in the scripture, you don't believe that he's the Messiah? And they'll tell you no, and you sit there with a question mark in your head. Why do they not believe? Well, they got a good reason to not believe. All right. And I used to tell my children, they'll testify to you right on the on this Zoom, that by the time they got up grown, when they were little boys, that this thing was going to be kicked off. Everybody's going to know that these African Americans and Latinos and Native Americans are Israelites. This thing is going to be brought out into the open. And when they got up grown, they came to me and said, you told us that everybody's going to know this eventually. Now, at the time when they were kids, they go telling their buddies, hey, we're Israelites. They got the same treatment. Sometimes people look cross-eyed at them, looking at them like they're crazy. All right. But they now grown men, and they go out and talk to their buddies and say, hey, bro or Ak, you know who we are, don't you? Everybody knows. All right. But here's what's going to happen. We're at step one. Everybody's starting to know that these people that ain't got their real, true native identity on them are Israelites. All right. Black folks ain't got their native identity on them. Latino and Hispanic folks ain't got their identity on them. The Native Americans ain't got their identity on them. All right. These folks are really Israelites. Okay. Point number two, that's step number one to returning. Point number two is this person right here. He's really number one, to be honest with you. Yahawah Alahyim. Because he will really literally be in the world. And it kind of sounds like what I used to sound like when I used to tell folks we were the Israelites years ago, and they used to look at you crazy. Well, this person right here, Yahawah Alahyim, is going to be a real person in the world. As a matter of fact, I think he's in the world right now. I think he is in the world. That's the reason why these things are starting to happen. Because this person right here and the Israelites would come around at the same time. It says, the scripture speaks about us being in Christ. All right? Being in the body of Christ and all of that. Well, in the end, when it comes down to it, who is Christ in? Christ is in Yahawah Alahyim, right? So in actuality, the body of Christ is in Yahawah Alahyim. Okay, so if Christ is in Yahawah Alahyim, then the body of Christ is in Yahawah Alahyim. All right, so at the same time that the Israelites will be returning, like we just said, if they shall return to the Lord thy God, shall obey his voice, Yahawah Alahyim, this person right here, will be coming on the scene too. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is that you got two seeming messiahs in the oral tradition. Before even the converts came along in the 6th or 8th century AD and start being known as Jewish people, our people had an oral tradition. All right, our forefathers, our scholars had an oral tradition, and there was two messiahs that they said would be on the scene before the kingdom comes. And when the kingdom comes, it would be Mashiach ben Joseph, Mashiach ben David. All right. Now, I used to think all of these oral traditions like Mashiach ben Joseph and Mashiach ben David was started by the converts, but I found out the converts didn't start that. All right, Maimonides and all of those people were really people of color. They was before the converts came in. Okay. Now, when the converts came in, they did add some stuff that's really odd and strange. You know what I'm saying? Really odd and strange. Okay. The book, the Talmud, and all of that, the stuff, the additions they put in there. Oh my goodness. Now, even back then and back in the day, some of the things our forefathers were writing in the oral tradition or were saying was not right. But the people that they're converted and start adding stuff is really out of space, all right? I'm right at the moment, I'm not going to go into any of it. But one of the things that our forefathers that did have the oral traditions before Messiah, before Jesus Christ or Yahawah came on the scene, one of the things they said was that there would be two Messiahs, all right? One would be Ben Joseph, one would be Ben David, all right? So, but were they correct? When upon studying what they was talking about, I find them really making a lot of sense. They were really on to something. All right, what I mean by that? Well, here's what the deal is. They said there'd be two messiahs in the war. There'd be a war that Israel would be fighting, I guess, for ages, for generations, for hundreds of years or thousands of years. Ben Joseph, check this out. Ben Joseph would die in the war. He'd stand up as a Mashiach person for Israel and would die. All right. That kind of looks like Yahawah or Jesus. He stood up for Israel in this war, the spiritual warfare, and died. And he didn't die because they just killed him. We know that he gave his life up for others. So that would be his part of salvation. The other one, and the other one would be Ben David. Now we know that Jesus was really a descendant of David, but he seems to fit the role of Ben Joseph. But the other one would be Ben David. Now Ben David, when he comes on the scene, this one will be different. And that's the reason why I think when I study Ben David, he looks like Yahawah Alahyim. He looks like the one that's going to be the one that sits on the throne in Revelation 4, the one that created everything. All right. And there's proof of it, even in the New Testament. All right. Even in the New Testament, in the book of Daniel, it speaks about two. All right. Let me go here to Daniel real quick. Let's go around real quick on some scriptures. Book of Daniel, chapter 9. When Daniel was seeking what was going to happen to his people in the latter days, the angel Gabriel shows up and starts telling him what was going to happen. All right. And Daniel chapter 9, verse 24 is where it starts. He tells him 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city to finish the transgression, to make an end of sins, to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision and prophecy, to anoint the most holy. All right, this right here is key, most holy, to anoint the most holy, 70 weeks. All right. Now we know, and we're gonna see this in a second or two, that Yahawah, who the oral tradition, who fits the oral tradition fathers as being Ben Joseph in his warfare, this Messiah, Ben Joseph, all right, was cut off in 62 weeks. Now remember, the whole thing is 70 weeks. But 70 weeks is going to take to anoint the most holy. All right. But we're going to see in a little bit that Yahawah at the 16 weeks, it was Messiah was one such Messiah cut off, but not for himself. But this goes all the way to 70 weeks. And if you look at it, it tells you all the things that this 70 weeks would happen, would take place. Make reconciliation for iniquity, to make an end of sins, finish the transgression, to bring in everlasting righteousness, seal up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. All right. And some people will say that most holy seems like the temple. All right. But that most holy also could be that Mashiach that's coming at the last day. That ain't Ben Joseph or Jesus. All right. To anoint the most holy, verse 25, to know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem into Mashiach, the Prince, right here. So you're going to see there's two time periods, all right? There's two time periods for Mashiach the Prince. All right, let me read that again. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto Mashiach the Prince shall be 7 weeks. Watch this, 7 weeks is the first time period. All right. 7 weeks and 3 score. Got a comma right here. Right here, the comma is there because the people that was writing this knew what they was talking about. They just didn't put something there for you to add up and you come up with your own number. It's 7 weeks and 62 weeks. All right. So Mashiach the Prince, 7 weeks and 62 weeks. This tree shall be built again and the wall in troublous times. But there's one Mashiach the Prince right here. And this one right here says Mashiach the Prince. All right. Let's see what that word prince is, Hebrew 50:57. Nagi. This word right here is where you get the word, it's a root word of what we call nigger. Okay. Shows you that the word nigger or nigger is a good word originally, but it's been made to look like a bad name. You know, derogatory way that the nations have said it. It's made you get mad at people calling you this right here, nigger or nagi. All right. And, you know, I understand because this is what they called us when they was whipping us, when we didn't have no rights. So it became a bad name. All right. And really the country Niger is really nigger, country of niggers. So that goes to show you it's a good name. It's not a bad name. All right. This Mashiach Nagid it means a commander. It's occupying the front. Civil, military, religious, generally abstract, plural, honorable themes. Captain, chief, excellent thing, chief, governor, leader, noble, prince, chief, ruler. All right. So let's see where we at. Until Messiah the Prince should be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. So why has it got two numbers there? Now I've seen people do this. They took the 7 weeks and added the 62 weeks, which basically a score is 20. So when you got 3 score, that's 60 because you got 3 20s. And 3 20s equals 60. So that's 60, and you got 2. I've seen people add the 7 and the 62 together, come up with 69. Now, if the Bible doesn't do that, why are you doing it? See, and they got it all messed up. I've been around, I've seen Bible scholars do that before. But there's a reason why you got 7 weeks and 62 weeks. Now let's look at verse 26. Now after 62 weeks shall Messiah. And look at that. After 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. Now, who do you think this was right here that was cut off? It shouldn't, you know, it shouldn't take you, don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this out. Because basically it matches up with Yahawah or Jesus. After they came out of Babylon, you put those numbers 430 something years, which is at 62 weeks, but you know, which is 430 something years. You add that time from the time they came out of Babylon to the time Christ died on the cross, it's around the same time. So after 62 weeks, shall Messiah be cut off. But check this out. Notice it didn't say Mashiach the Prince. This Prince up here. It just says Messiah shall be cut off. Notice that. See that? Notice these little things in the word that the word tells you. After 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. So this Messiah that we know of that died on the cross 2,000 years ago didn't die for himself. He died for others. Okay? And he's what we call the Lamb of God that washes away our sin. All right? But hold on just a moment. All right. So this one is called the Lamb. Now, notice he's not called the Prince. Now, here's the issue. What the European, what the Jews, the converted Jews know. That this one must be Mashiach ben Joseph. The one that would die in the war. Because he would be cut off, but not for himself. See that? So they know this. But this one up here, Mashiach the Prince, Mashiach Nagid, has to be the one that comes in the latter days. All right, he's the big man. And this is what the converted Jews are waiting on. They're waiting on Mashiach Nagid, Mashiach the Prince. They know he hasn't arrived yet, that he's on the way still. Remember, 70 weeks, but Mashiach, Messiah, was cut off after 62 weeks, which is 2,000 years ago. Okay. Now, whether they think that the one Mashiach ben Joseph is Jesus or not, some of them do, some of them believe that, but some of them still don't. They believe that Yahawah is in hell, burning in feces, boiling in feces, stuff like that. All right, I hate to say it, but that's what I've heard, what I'm talking about. But this Mashiach, the Prince, Mashiach Nagid, is the big man. All right. He's the one that comes at the end. All right. And when you read this and you study this Mashiach, the Nagid, has to be Yahawah Alahyim. Because remember, let me show you something. Let me go there and let's revisit some of the stuff we've been studying. Mashiach Nagid has to come at the end, and he has to dwell among the people. All right. I'm not saying that Yahawah won't dwell among the people, but let's look at this real quick. In Revelation 7, and we see the first part of Revelation 7 is talking about the 144,000. They sealed. All right, and I'm not going to read that. You have the angels just guarding and holding the four winds of the heavens, so nothing happens while they're sealing the 144,000. And I think that's what's going on right now. Because they could have, nuclear war could have been, still could blow off any time, all right? And that's what it means, holding back the four winds, because the nuclear war causes winds. The winds are the most terrible things about it. All right. And after this, Revelation 7:9, after this I beheld and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations, kindreds, people, tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. So they stood before the throne. You notice that when it says they stood before the throne, this right here, always when I read this, they stood before the throne. The throne is not a person. Okay, the throne is a throne. But where's the one sitting on the throne? Okay, they stood before the throne and before the Lamb. The Lamb is up there, but where's the one sitting on the throne? Okay, but they standing before the throne and before the Lamb, all right? But watch this. Verse 15, therefore are they before the throne of God. It's explaining why these people are standing before the throne, because they was washed in the blood of the Lamb, and that gave them entrance to the throne of God. Therefore are they before the throne of God and serve him day and night in his temple, and he that sitteth on the throne. All right, okay, now it's talking about the one sitting on the throne. It's not just a throne now. He that sitteth on the throne. Let me highlight this. He that sitteth on the throne shall dwell among them. Now, who is the one that sits on the throne of God? It's God, right? Yahawah himself. The one that created even Yahawah, the Lamb. He's the one that sits on the throne. And he that sitteth on the throne shall dwell among who? And let me tell you something. If you're thinking that we're going to go to heaven and he that sitteth on the throne up there is going to dwell among the people, no, that's not what it's saying. That's not what it's saying. God didn't create man to dwell up in heaven. Otherwise, he would have just did that from the very beginning. Created Adam up in heaven, let him live up there. No, that's not what's going to happen. You got many Christians saying that there's going to be a rapture and Yah's going to take all of these people up into heaven. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen like that, all right? That's not what the Bible says. That's what somebody wishes it says, because then it would mean that they won't be punished for how they treated Yahweh's people. He'd take them out on the day of judgment and take them into heaven. So though they've been part of the problem, they won't get the punishment. The only ones on the earth the ones on the earth gonna get the punishment. No, that's not what happens. That's a wish. But he that sitteth on the throne shall dwell among them on the earth. And they shall hunger no more, neither thirst any more, neither shall the sun light on them anymore, nor any heat. All right. So this is going to be on the earth. When we see New Jerusalem coming down, we see it coming down on the earth. So here's what comes down first. God comes down. Okay? God comes down. And this is what I say, this is what the Jews or the converted Jews know that most of our people are not aware of yet. Okay? They're not aware of this yet. That this one that sits on the throne, he that sitteth on the throne shall dwell among the people. They didn't say they would dwell among him. It said he would dwell among them. Literally, he's coming down. That's the reason why up here, it says, it's talking about in verse 9, that these people stood before the throne and before the Lamb cloaked with white robes and palms in their hand. Okay? And they say right here, verse 10, and cried with a loud voice, saying, salvation to our God, which sitteth upon the throne and unto the Lamb. Now, this is, if you've been sitting in Christian churches for a long time, all right, I'm not saying Christian churches are all just messed up, they're just totally lost. But if you've been sitting in a Christian church, you should be thinking, salvation to who? All right. Salvation to who? Salvation to our God, which sitteth on the throne. All right, I want you to think about that for a moment. Our salvation to our God. And that word salvation there, let me look at it, Greek 4991. It's soteria in the Greek. It means rescue or safety, physical, morally, deliver, health, salvation, save, saving. Literally, salvation to our God. That means that God is going to need salvation. Now, many people, especially Christians, will hear that and say, oh, no, you're wrong there. Well, it says it right here. Salvation to our God will sit upon the throne and unto the Lamb. And unto the Lamb. That's another point. Salvation unto the Lamb. When? Let me get my words right now. How does the Lamb need salvation? He's sitting right beside the throne in heaven. How does he need salvation? All right. So what's going on here? All right. Salvation to our God, but sit upon the throne and unto the Lamb. Is the Lamb totally saved, or is there still some salvation that he has to experience? Now we know that Yah rose him from the dead and set him at his right hand. But is there still salvation that Jesus, the Lamb, still has to experience? It's a good question, isn't it? Is there still a saving? If you think about it, why hasn't he come back yet? Why hasn't Yahawah, if this thing is perfected, why is he still right on the right hand of the throne? What would take him to come down and finish his work? If you've been in Christian churches, you should be thinking about something now. It says, salvation to our God will sit upon the throne and unto the Lamb. So how does God need salvation? Now, when Yah revealed to me that Jesus was not, the Lamb was not God. He was not the creator. This God that sits on the throne was the creator. Then when I heard this story and I saw it a little bit more accurately, I said, boy, this is something that you can't even draw up and put it on TV. This is a great story. that this God that created all things, including the Lamb that died for our sins, is going to come down and dwell with his people. The very one that they offended, that his people offended, wouldn't keep his commandments, all right, is going to come down and dwell with his people. Let me show you something else here. It's a great story. Now, the people that converted are more on to this, about this one that sits on the throne. They're more on to it than what the Christians are. And that's why they don't want to believe in Jesus, because they half right, half wrong. All right? Half right, half wrong. They right about the Mashiach ben David, but they're wrong about Mashiach ben Joseph. All right? Now, when the covenant got completed, that when Israel agreed to the covenant with Yahawah, all right, they agreed to the covenant, all right, on Mount Sinai. We see this right here in Exodus chapter 24, verse 9. Then went up Moses, Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, and the 70 elders of Israel, and they saw what? What did they see? They saw the God of Israel. All right. Somebody ever tell you no one has ever saw God before? No one has ever saw the God of Israel before? They might be partly right, partly wrong. These people, it says they saw God, the God of Israel. All right. On Mount Sinai. I'm trying to highlight this for you. They saw God, the God of Israel, and it was under his feet as it was a pavework of a sapphire stone, as it was a body of heaven in its clearness. And upon the nobles of the children of Israel, verse 11, he laid not his hand. Also they saw God, and it repeats it. Also they saw God and did eat and drink. All right. Also they saw God and did eat and drink. What is this right here? What is this all about? And I think it becomes more obvious what it's about when we understand that what we're talking about here, that it's Yahawah Alahyim, the very end of this whole thing with him, this relationship Israel has with Yahawah Alahyim, is that he would come down and that he would dwell among the people. All right. I think he was ready to do it right here, but he knew his people weren't ready for it yet. He was ready for it to come down and do this right here. And they saw the God of Israel that was under his feet as it was a pavework of a sapphire stone, as it was the body of heaven in its clearness. Upon the nobles of the children of Israel, he laid not his hand. Also they saw God. And that word for God there in the Hebrew is Alahyim. Elohim and this in the East word. But when you really look it up in the Hebrew, it's Alahyim. Kind of like what the Muslims say to call God Allah. Well, it's more than just Allah, it's Alahyim in Hebrew. All right. That's how you know that's the true way of saying his name, because the Arabs that have Islam say it, they have the correct syllables on the name. They say Allah, but it's really Alahyim. But in this English right here, it says Elohim. But we know what. I would rather use Elohim than use God, to be honest with you. But it's Alahyim. All right. So it says gods in the ordinary sense, but specifically used in the plural, thus especially with the article of the supreme God. Right here, the supreme. What do you think they saw on the mountain? They saw the supreme God. They saw the supreme God on the mountain. All right. Now, this is what the converse is knowing, that this supreme God is coming down. He's going to dwell among the people. How is he going to do it? Where we was just at back here. And it always, when you look at the scriptures and you look at prophecy, it always tells you the end first. Because there's a scripture that says better is the end of a thing is better than the beginning. I'm gonna go there in a second or two. But let's go back to Daniel. It always, when it talks about prophecy, it tells you the end. It tells you the end first, and then all the stuff that comes in between now until you get to the end is another story. All right. So when it tells us that 70 weeks are determined to do all of these things, and know therefore in verse 25, know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem unto Mashiach the Prince. So what is Mashiach the Prince? Is he Yahawah or is he the end? Mashiach the Prince has to be the ending. All right. Mashiach that gets cut off, but not for himself. All right. Is in between. He's what's going to happen in between the Mashiach coming, the Prince coming. All right. So he comes after 62 weeks. Remember, it's 70 weeks. It's not 70 weeks he comes. It's 62 weeks. Because after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, not 70 weeks. And here's another thing too. This Mashiach, the Prince up here, I'm highlighting everything right now. This Mashiach, the Prince up here does not die, does not die. All right, he does not die. So Yahawah Alahyim lives. He lives. And if you really want the rapture of the church, what the church is talking about, the rapture, the catching away of the saints, in other words, this sounds better than rapture. The rapture sounds like a song Anita Baker sang, caught up in the rapture of love or something. But if you really want the catching away of the saints, the catching away of the saints from trouble, this Mashiach, the Prince, is the key to it. If you really want the resurrection of the dead, we know Yahawah rose from the dead, or Yahawah rose Yahawah from the dead. After 3 days, or 2 or 3 days, he rose him from the dead and set him at his right hand. But if you want the resurrection of the dead, of the saints, of all the other saints, here's your key. It's Mashiach the Prince. But the Gentiles who basically have been running the church, including the church that took us into captivity, yes, it was the church. Christianity took the black man that's in the Americas into slavery. Because it was the Pope that issued the papal bull to give the Inquisition to these people that would not convert to Catholicism that was in Spain and Portugal. Okay, they set all of this stuff off, this Western culture and civilization in the Americas. All of this stuff that happened set it off. It was the Pope that did that in the 1400s. That's Christianity. So Christianity is what calls the man of color, the black man, the people, the Israelites that are over here in the West, that have gone through sufferings and still going through suffering. Christianity has done that. And they waiting on Mashiach without realizing that they're waiting on Mashiach, the Prince, to come and save them out of the trouble that's coming upon the earth. But they're the ones that done all the dirty stuff to Mashiach, the Prince's people. All of the dirty stuff that didn't happen. And they talking about, what is it? They're talking about, what is it called? That'll come to me in a second or two. All the stuff that they've suffered. All right, I can't call the name of it, what they call it. All the stuff that they've suffered. All right, how many people suffered it? I'm not saying that they didn't suffer, that there weren't some people that Hitler didn't, that Hitler did, Hitler did put some people in some furnaces. He did do that. He killed a lot of people, more than just them. He killed other people of other nations too, probably killed more people of other nations than he killed them, but I would be called anti-Semitic for saying that. But we know that there was probably over 100 million people that they bought from Africa over here that had died in the slave trade. thrown off of slave ships and everything. Sharks fall on the ships, eating up folk, eating up bodies. We know that there's more people that died during that thing. You're talking about 100 million people compared to, what is it, 6 million? You know? And I'm not afraid to say it. I'm trying to be respectful. I know some people's foot gets stepped on. They got their feet sitting right in front of me. I can't walk around anywhere without stepping on some toes. You stepped on my toes. Get your toes out of the way then. You know what I'm saying? Get your feet out of here. Why are your feet everywhere I walk? You know what I'm saying? Oh, I'm going to step on some toes. I'm going to eventually grind them toes up. All right? I'm going to cut some toes off stepping on them. They don't have no business being where I'm walking. Everywhere I walk, those toes are sitting right here. All right? But if I step on some toes by saying our people that were slaves in the Americas, the tally of the numbers of those people come up somewhere close to 100 million. And if I'm disrespecting you for saying that, then you're gonna have to be disrespected, okay? Because when this man shows up on the scene, the one that you are even waiting on, I don't think it's gonna be a good day for you. Because he knows his people. His people came out of Egypt, out of Africa, were slaves all throughout the whole fleet. They were slaves in Africa, they were slaves in the Middle East, all right? Babylon, they were slaves. Later on in history, all throughout their history, these people have violated the covenant and wound up being slaves, all right? And when this man shows up on the scene in the latter day, he's gonna deliver them from all their slavery. When he shows up on the scene, he's taking them out of the places where they were slaves. Let's go back what we just said. Go back what we just said. I think that was a scripture another scripture I wanted to go to. Let's see. Let's try Daniel again. And I'm hanging around with these scriptures week by week because this is how important this is. That you got 4 beasts starting in Daniel chapter 7. 4 beasts. And each beast represents a king that's going to reign over the earth all the way up until the kingdom comes. All right, when the kingdom comes, and we know the scripture of Yahawah, the Lord's Prayer, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. And the first thing after you praise his name, first thing the request is, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So the last beast that's reigning on the earth, we know is the Roman Empire. And it's still reigning. So it just, what is it called? Shape shifted from this dragon, and then it becomes a little horn. All right. In verse 8 says, I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. All right. I was looking at a video today, and on the video, it had one of the horns as being the Pope. That horn being the Pope. Is that correct? It might be. I think it might be. It has something to do with the Pope or somebody that's converted to another religion, or that he really wasn't part of those people. All right. But after this, what ends this empire, this Rome Empire, which is really, when you look it up in any dictionary or any almanac of Ish people, you look it up in any almanac or whatever, and what people were the Romans? They were Edomites. All right. Romans were Edomites, as were the Greeks, as was, what's the name, Haman in the book of Esther, Edomite. All right. So when it says that the end of the world is Edom, Esau is the end of the world, but Jacob is the beginning of that which comes after in the book of Esdras. All right, the apocryphal book of Esdras. Esau is the end of the world, but Jacob is the beginning of that comes after. That's so true. How is Jacob the beginning of that which comes right after the reign of Esau, which is Rome, right here? Because right after you see that little horn, Daniel chapter 7, verse 9, it says, "By I beheld till the thrones were cast down." So the thrones were cast down, these thrones or these kings were cast down. What cast the thrones of these kings down? The Ancient of Days. The next thing that says right there, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, the Ancient of Days did sit. So who is this Ancient of Days? Who is this Ancient of Days? Remember we were just talking about 70 weeks? After 60 and 2, somebody got cut off. Somebody died that was a Mashiach. But it didn't say anything about the Mashiach McGee dying. So this Ancient of Days has to be Mashiach McGee. The Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow. And when we was just reading in Revelation, that a crowd of folks with white robes were standing for the throne with palms in their hands. Now here's the Ancient of Days. Check this out. The Ancient of Days has a white garment on, just like the ones in Revelation chapter 7. The white robes, he has a garment on that, but he is as white as snow. All right. I'm going to show you that this has to be him. His head of his hair is like the pure wool. That means his hair was woolly, pure woolly. So you want to know what type of ethnic background this person is, and it shows you that he's a human being. His hair is pure wool. The texture of his hair is like wool. All right. So we have the Ancient of Days basically taking out the last empire on the earth, the Roman Empire, which is Edom. No, many of my people would say, no, that's Jesus that does that. Or Yahawah comes back and does that. No, it doesn't say that. It says right here, the Ancient of Days does that. Ancient of Days does it. And I'm just, on many of these videos, I'm going back and explaining it to you. And I might say it in a different way. But when we go to Psalms, to show you this, to prove this, Psalms 110, and really, no matter how many times you say this about Yahawah Alahyim, you rejoice every time because you see it happening, you see it coming to pass. That the reason why our people are waking up and the reason why people start to know who we really are is because of Yahawah Alahyim. Because it takes two. Israel's going to wake up to their identity, and Yahawah Alahyim they're going to find out who Yahawah Alahyim is. All right? So it's not going to be complete without Yahawah Alahyim, this waking up, this enlightenment. So Psalm 110, verse 1 says, Yahawah said unto my Adon, all right? And you look at the words, but this word for the Lord is Yahawah. Yahawah, and go there real quick. That's Yahawah, right? Said unto, let's see, this other word for Lord. That's what we got to, I'm sure, boy, I'm telling you. They set all types of roadblocks and stumbling blocks in our way and finding out the truth. But they've got two words for Lord, and both of them are different words in the Hebrew. So Yahawah said unto my Adon, all right, sit at my right hand till I make thine enemies thy footstool. So we know anybody that really believes in that New Testament knows that this is Yahawah. This Adon right here that David was talking about, which is his Lord, his Adon. All right. Sit at my right hand till I make thine enemies thy footstool. It's Yahawah. But this Yahawah right here is the creator, is the one that sits on the throne. That's why he's saying, sit at my right hand till I make thine enemies thy footstool. So it says, sit beside me on right here. I'm sitting on the throne. You sit right beside me until I make your enemies your footstool. All right. So who's the one making Yahawah's enemies his footstool? Yahawah. the one that sits on the throne. How's he doing it? We just saw it there, and let's go back here to Daniel chapter 7. So instead of just letting him take out his enemies, Yahawah's going to do it himself. I'll be held to the thrones will cast down the ancient of days, that said, whose garments white as snow, hair of his head like pure wool, as strong as the fiery flame, and his wheels as a burning fire. All right. So that's the reason why it shows you that just that verse right after the last empire, that Roman Empire, it says the thrones were cast down. It means he cast down the thrones. So who do we see judging? It says a fiery stream issued and came forth from before him, thousands ministered unto him 10,000 times 10,000s. So before him the judgment was set and the books were open. So what happens? This one that sits on the throne and told the other one that's sitting right beside him, sit right here while I make your enemies your footstool. This is how he's doing it. He's going to come himself. All right. Judgment was set and the books were open. So he comes and takes them out. He casts the thrones down and he judges. All right. And as we saw before, when does Jesus come on the scene? Here he is right here. Verse 13, I saw in a mighty vision, behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven and came to the, and what did he do? He came to the Ancient of Days. So that right there that you know is they're not the same person. Jesus is not Yahawah. He came to the Ancient of Days and they brought him near before him. And that was given him dominion, glory, kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. So who takes out, who's the one that establishes the kingdom of God on the earth? The Ancient of Days. He's the one that does it. And people are not going to be ready for this. All right. I would say the Hebrew Israelites will be ready. He's gonna let them know what's going to happen. It's like when he took Israel out of Egypt with Moses. All right, took Israel out of Egypt with Moses. He sent Moses in there to get them ready. And he showed signs and wonders and everything. That's what he's gonna do again. All right, he's gonna do that again. Where's that at? Well, let's go back here. Daniel, not Daniel, Jeremiah. Jeremiah, let's see. Jeremiah 50. Verse 1, the word that Yahawah spake against Babylon and against the land of the Chaldeans by Jeremiah the prophet. Declare ye among the nations and publish and set up a standard, publish and conceal not. Say Babylon is taken, Baal is confounded. Who is this Baal right here? All right, this is the God of Babel. That's how we know that we're in Babylon right now. He tried to spell it a little different on this, like B-E-L instead of B-A-L, A-L, 2 A's. All right, but this is Baal. Baal is confounded. How you know? Baal. Right here it says Baal, the Baal, B-A-A-L, of the Babylonians. Right? Baal is confounded. Merodach is broken in pieces. Our idols are confounded. Our images are broken in pieces. So what's going on here? Well, let's see what's happening. For out of the north there shall come up a nation against her, which shall make her and land desolate. And none shall dwell therein. They shall remove, they shall depart, both men and beasts. All right, so this is talking about making Babylon's land desolate. Is this talking about the ancient Babylon, or this talking about the Babylon is going to be in the latter days? It's not the ancient Babylon. All right, it's not ancient, because the ancient Babylon didn't get destroyed. Their land wasn't made desolate. So this has to be the latter day Babylon. It's going to be without, they shall remove, they shall depart, both men and beasts. Both men and beasts is going to get out of there. Why? In those days and at that time, saith Yahawah, the children of Israel shall come, they and the children of Judah together going and weeping, and they shall go and seek. Guess who? So how's this This Hebrew Israelite awakening, what's going to be the end of it? What's going to be the end of this Hebrew Israelite awakening? The next thing they're going to seek and they're going to find it is Yahawah the Alahyim, the one we were just talking about, the one that sits on the throne. So I was on 30 years ago when I come around and being a Hebrew Israelite, when nobody else was a Hebrew Israelite that was around me. All right, and there was no internet for YouTube videos. All right, just a person sitting there looking at the scriptures and Yah whispering to him in his ear, telling him the truth. And it was hard for me to believe it at first. I finally let go in 1990. I said, okay, who are these people? All right. Now Yah has revealed to me about this Yahawah Alahyim. He's the next thing that Israel that's known, starting to wake up and realize who they are, that they're Hebrew Israelites. He's the next thing that they're going to wake up and realize after this thing about who we really are. The identity about who we really are is not as strong as this person right here. Who this person, Yahawah Alahyim, is. Out of all the nations on the face of the earth, Yahawah is connected to the Hebrew Israelites. This Yahawah Alahyim. Because he's going to be with them. He's going to be one of them. He's going to be of them, of Israel. Let's see, there's a scripture. David wrote some good stuff, you know. Let's go to Psalms. David wrote some good stuff. David had to saw a lot of these things in visions and dreams. Let's see here. Psalm 24. The earth is Yahawah's, the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. For he hath founded it upon the seas and established it upon the floods. Watch this. Who shall ascend to the hill of Yahawah, or who shall stand in his holy place? And where's the hill of Yahawah? It's over there in Israel, right? The hill of Yahawah is in Israel. All right? But who shall ascend into the hill of Yahawah? Now check this out. Let me ask you this question. And I'm not down in Yahawah Shai. He is worthy of all honor and praise for what Yah did through him. And he died for our sins on that cross. And there's nothing nobody can do about that. But who shall ascend into the hill of Yahawah, or who shall stand in his holy place? Check that out. And David saw this right here. Now watch this. He that has clean hands and a pure heart, who has not lifted up his soul unto vanity, nor sworn deceitfully. Now, one of the things you'll notice in this is not saying he that has never sinned and done iniquity. Because Yahawah Shai done that for us. Now, as we read in Daniel, the book of Daniel, chapter 7, it speaks about the Ancient of Days having a garment white as snow. And you connect that to Revelation chapter 7, it speaks about the multitude of people, the palms in their hands standing before the throne and for the Lamb. And the angel tells us that they had washed their robes, make them white in the blood of the Lamb. Did this Yahawah Alahyim make his robe white in the blood of the Lamb? In other words, did Yahawah Alahyim basically do something like what happened in the Matrix movie? Have you seen the Matrix movie where Cypher wanted to get his memory taken away and go back into the Matrix and be a rich man? Did Yahawah Alahyim do the opposite of that? He come down not knowing who he was, not knowing who he is, a poor man living among the Israelites in their captivity. Did that happen? Is that what's taking place here? And when I study these scriptures, and he just says, sure. And a lot of times I speak by the inspiration. I'm speaking by what Yah allowed me to speak. And I just heard him say, sure. He didn't want me saying that, what I was going to say. So he wanted me to go ahead on and say what I'm going to say. That it looks like, and I'm not going to say it, look, I think, and I'm pretty much sure that that's what's going on here. That Yahawah, the one that it dwells in every place at the same time and can be omnipresent all powerful, omniscient, all knowing, in the spirit world, will come down in the flesh, be born among his people, just like Yahawah was, his son, be born among his people, and come into this place without knowing who he is. Could he do that? Yes, he could. And this is what David is writing about right here. Who shall ascend into the hill of Yahawah? Who shall stand in this holy place? Yahawah. Simple. That's it. That's the answer to that question. Who shall ascend into the hill of Yahawah? Can anybody else ascend into the hill of Yahawah but Yahawah? Or who shall stand in this? Can anybody stand in the holy place of Yahawah but Yahawah? Let me read on some more. He that have clean hands and a pure heart was not lifted. Now this is what this person is about. He has clean hands and a pure heart, who has not lifted up his soul unto vanity nor sworn deceitfully. He shall receive the blessing from Yahweh, the right and righteousness from the God of his salvation. Now, what did we just read in Revelation? Salvation to the one that sitteth upon the throne and unto the Lamb. So he's going to receive righteousness from the God of his salvation. So the story of this story that I'm telling you right now is even greater. We hear the story about Jesus, Yahawah. All right, and it's a great story. But guess what? This one's even greater. Yahawah Alahyim is greater than Yahawah Mashiach. He's the creator of the man. All right, he created the Lamb of God. His story will be greater. So he shall receive the blessing from Yahweh and righteousness from the God of his salvation. So that means this is the salvation that the one that sits on the throne will receive. So you put those scriptures together, you come up with the story. The story is, you know, my son and I went and saw that movie Black Adam. And it you know, has some things in there kind of like what Yahawah Alahyim would be like. You would be something like that. But that story still ain't got nothing on this God right here. This man that's coming down in the latter days, Mashiach Nagi, who is really Yahawah. All right, he's really Yahawah in the flesh. He doesn't die. Okay, because the enemy is going to try to take this man out. So when you read in Isaiah 53, and I'm not going to go there right now, I'm going to get ahead of myself. And we're going to go to Isaiah 53 in a little bit. It says, he shall receive the righteousness from the God of his salvation. Verse 6, this is the generation of them that seek him, that seek thy face, O Jacob, Selah. Lift up your heads, O you gates, and be ye lifted up, your everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Look at this. Look at this. So who is this talking about? Who's going to come into the king? Who's the King of glory? All right, look at this thing right here. Lift up your heads, O you gates, and be ye lifted up, your everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Who is this King of glory? Yahawah, strong and mighty. Who is this man that's going to ascend to the hill of Yahawah and stand in this holy place? David, you wrote a good one right here, boy. Woo. Oh my goodness. Who is this King of glory? Yahawah, strong and mighty. Yahawah, mighty in battle. So yeah, so what I'm saying is that what's going on here? Did Yahawah literally manifest himself and come down here in human body, born of a woman, just like Yahawah, born of a man and a woman, not knowing who he was, took his own identity away from him and lived among his people. Is that what's going on here? That's what this is literally saying. Because who's going to ascend into the hill of Yahawah? Yahawah, right there. It says, who is this King of glory? The one that ascends to the hill and stands in the holy place? Yahawah, strong and mighty. Yahawah, mighty in battle. Sit at my right hand till I make your enemies your footstool. So who's the one making Yahawah's enemies his footstool? The Lord, strong and mighty, Yahawah. Yahawah, strong and mighty, Yahawah, mighty in battle. He's the one doing it, but he's coming down as a human being. And like I said, Isaiah 53 will tell you some stuff, because many people say that Isaiah 53 is a fulfillment of Yahawah. But there's some things in Isaiah 53 that Yahawah didn't fulfill. Let me go on. In Isaiah 53, it says, I can't help it. In Isaiah 53, it says that the man that's in Isaiah 53 will be a man that's sickly. In other words, this Yahawah that's coming around the same time that the Israelites are waking up in a lot of days, the enemy will be trying to take him out with sickness. I'm going to stop right there. Go on. Lift up your heads, O you gates. Even lift them up, you everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Who is this King of glory? Yahawah of hosts. He is the King of glory, Selah. So who's going to ascend to the hill of Yahawah or stand in this holy place? Yahawah. So he has to be a human being. As we just saw, Daniel, in the book of Daniel, let's see, go back here, Daniel, chapter 7. I beheld till the thrones were cast down and ancient of days did sit. Wait a minute here. If he's just a spirit, what is he sitting on for one thing? And how is he wearing a garment? White as snow. And it looked like that garment is washed in the blood of the Lamb, like in Revelation chapter 7, with those having palm branches. White as snow, tells you the color. He's not wearing like a color like red, sardine color, or saying his garment is white, just like the ones in Revelation chapter 7, whose garments were washed in the blood of the Lamb through great tribulation. Is this what's going on right here? Is he literally coming down as a human being and getting salvation from the Lamb also? White garment, white as snow, and the hair. Wait a minute. A spirit got hair? Hair of his head like pure wool. He has a throne with fiery flame. There's a fiery flame, and his wheels are the burning fire. Now, this is the next thing that the Hebrew Israelites are going to be on. And I'm telling you this right now before it happens. Because without him, there's no deliverance. Because remember, sit at my right hand till I make your enemies your footstool. He has to make Yahawah's enemies his footstool. And what does it say? The last enemy that shall be defeated is death, right? So there's this Ancient of Days that takes death out. Not only takes the enemies, like the Edomite nations up here, and the nations that's ruling over the world when he comes, he's not only going to take them out, he's going to take death out. Yeah. And the scripture says the last enemy that shall be defeated is death. Let me try to go there real quick. I'm going to obey Yah, not go to Isaiah 53. Isaiah, let's see, 1 Corinthians chapter 15. So what's going on right now? Yahawah is reigning. Yahawah is reigning in the heavens. But you notice in Revelation chapter 7, remember it says they stood before the throne and before the Lamb. But it didn't say they stood before the one that sitteth on the throne and before the Lamb. So you take those little things, those little hints, tell you something. So where is the one that sits on the throne when those people are standing before the throne? Then they say salvation to our God to sit upon the throne and also unto the Lamb. What's going on there? All right, let's see here. Verse 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 24. Then come of the end when he shall have delivered the kingdom of God even to the Father. So basically, Yahawah, it's talking about Yahawah, going to be doing the deliver up the kingdom to God. So that means Yahawah is reigning right now. So when you see them standing before the throne and there's nobody sitting on the throne, and they talking about salvation to the one that they stood before the throne and then before the Lamb. All right, Yahawah is the one ruling over the world. Remember when he rose from the dead, he said, all power is given unto me in heaven and in earth. All power is given. And my son had a good idea on that. He said, if all power was given unto him, he could not have been God. But it was given unto him. But I look at it like this. Why was he given the power in heaven and earth? All right. Could it be that he's the one that takes the king that takes a long journey from his throne and leaves his son in charge? When he leaves his son in charge, where does he go? Is he coming down here? Could it be that? Then come up the end when he shall have delivered up the kingdom to God, even the Father. See, letting you know that the living of the kingdom is even the Father, to the Father. When he shall put down all rule and all authority and power. Well, he must reign until he have put all enemies under his feet. The last enemy that shall be destroyed is death. So the last enemy that shall be destroyed is death. So how's this happening? Yahawah says, sit on my right hand till I make that enemy's thy footstool. So he and the Son is working together. And it looks like the Father's down here on the earth. Son is up in heaven. And the Father's putting all those enemies under his Son's feet. And when that happens, the kingdom is given to him, given to the Father. And it shows you this, that even the Son did not know. All right, the Son did not know when the kingdom was coming. He said, no one knows but my Father only, right? Now, if he was God, he should have known. Not the angels, nor the Son, but the Father. And his disciples asked him in Acts chapter 1, when he rose from the dead. Now check this out, and it shows you that the disciples didn't know what was going on either. Acts chapter 1, verse 6, when they would come together, they asked him, saying, Lord, would thou at this time, restore again the kingdom to Israel. Restore again the kingdom. So that lets you know that at one time the kingdom of God was in Israel. Will you at this time restore again the kingdom to Israel? And Yahawah said unto them, it's not for you to know the times of the season. Well, guess what? Which the Father has put in his own power. The Father. Only the Father knows. Now, what's that scripture at, Drake, that talks about the man taking a journey for the kingdom? What's that? Huh? Now, when you look at this scripture, and I've spoken before, Mark 13:34. Let's go there real quick. This right here I spoke it before, but Yahawah told us 13. Okay. Yahawah told us that that the kingdom is if a man took a long journey, all right, and he left people in charge. All right. Now I used to read that and think it was Yahawah. When you really look at this thing, it's really the Father that's taking the long journey. He left all the people in charge. He even left his son in charge. Now watch this. Let's see. Mark 13:32 says, but of that day and of hour knoweth no man, no not the angels. Watch this. Which are in heaven, neither the Son. Let me highlight this. Knoweth no man, neither the Son. Why doesn't the Son, if he's God, know the day? What day are we talking about? We're talking about the day of Yahawah. Neither the angels in heaven nor the Son, but the Father. All right. Take ye heed, watch and pray, for you know not when the time is. And then verse 34, this which is the major scripture, and it has it in italics right here. It has it in italics. The italics says, for the Son of Man is. But we're going to, since it's in italics, it was added by some priest or whatever person that translated this, and it wasn't in there at first. We're going to start with what is there. It says, as a man taking a far journey, who left his house and gave authority to his servants, to every man his work, and commanded the porter to watch. All right. Watch therefore, for you know not when the master of the house cometh, at even, at midnight, or a cock crowing, or in the morning. That's coming suddenly, he find you sleeping. And what I say unto you, I say unto you all, watch. So basically, this story right here, this parable that Yahawah just spoke, it looks more like the father on a long journey. He's coming to the earth as a man taking a far journey who left house. So when did he take this far journey? When did he take this far journey? When did the Father take the far journey from the throne? Well, he got somebody else that's got all power in heaven and earth that's been put in his hand. It had to have been around that time. Took a far journey. All right. That means he was in the project, just like Yahawah, his genealogy took generations for him to come into being Joseph and Mary's son. Well, it looked like this same thing happened with the Father. And that the Son, when he came into the world, was only mimicking what the Father would do in the latter days. Okay? But he is as a man taking a far journey who left his house and gave authority to his servants, we know the angels, to every man his work, and commanded the porter to watch. What do you think the porter is? Let's look at this word porter, Greek 23:77. We put 2 and 2 together and we figure out who this porter is. Greek 23:77. A watcher, a gate warden that kept the door porter. I think that porter is Yahawah, the Son of God. Because he's not his servant. Not yet, he's his son. Gave every man his work and commanded the porter to watch. So this story right here is more talking about Yahawah. So who's coming? Who's coming that we should be aware of? Is it Yahawah is coming? Because I've heard many, and I'm not down in my brothers. You know, that's one thing we're getting away from too, because one of the things that our people have been doing over the years is downing each other in the public eye. What we just saw with Kyrie, what is his name, Kanye and Kyrie on TV, sports shows, was the same, was these brothers dogging out their own brother. All right. And it's starting to end. It's coming to an end. With us waking up and realizing who we are, it's starting to come to an end. And I'm not going to down my brothers, all right? But I know that some of us, like me, let me hold on just a moment. Like me, like I used to think that we was waiting on Jesus, all right? I used to think we was waiting on Jesus. We were waiting on the Father. Because thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Who is he talking to? Our Father, which art in heaven. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as we're waiting on the Father. So who is this one that stands in Yahawah's holy place, that ascends unto the hill of Yahawah? It's the Father, it's Yahawah, it's the Ancient of Days. So what I'm saying is that the next thing, that the final, the let me put it this way, the butt kicker that's going to get Israel home. All right, the butt kicker that's going to get Israel home, that's going to bring the kingdom to earth, is when Israel realizes Yahawah Alahyim, and what I'm talking about right here. Where we were in Jeremiah, let's go back there. They're going to go weeping and crying. Let's go to verse 4. In those days and at that time, saith Yahawah, the children of Israel shall come, they and the children of Judah. That means both houses, the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Judah, together, going and weeping. They will go and seek Yahawah, their Alahyim. See that? Jeremiah 50, verse 4. So that means while they in captivity. So what's the next thing that's going to happen? They're going to be woke up, and then they're going to go and seek Yahawah, their Alahyim. Let me read that again. In those days and at that time, said Yahawah, the children of Israel shall come, they and the children of Judah together, going and weeping. They shall go and seek Yahawah, their Alahyim. And what's going to happen? They shall ask the way to Zion with their faces thitherward, saying, come, let us join ourselves to Yahawah, the perpetual covenant that shall not be forgotten. So what's going to happen? They're going to, he's going to be down here, and they're going to really catch on that this man is Yahawah Alahyim. And they're going to ask him the way to Zion, because anybody could tell you how to get to the Middle East, to Africa, but there's a way about it. This man is the key. Yahawah Alahyim, the Ancient of Days. And what we see of him, that he's dwelling among the people. In Revelation chapter 7, he dwells among the people. So they should ask the way to Zion with their faces thitherward, saying, come, let us join ourselves to Yahawah in the perpetual covenant that shall not be forgotten. This is also going to cause him, Yahawah Alahyim, to come into full power for his people. What do we just see in Psalm 24? Who shall ascend into the hill of Yahawah? All right. So it's like, how can I put it? You know, like Superman, he's got kryptonite. What's his kryptonite? His kryptonite is his people's unbelief. Okay? Yahawah Alahyim, his kryptonite is his people's unbelief. But when they believe in him, there's nothing he can't do for them. Okay? Now we see this man is afflicted and stricken and everything in the word, but all of a sudden they believe in him. What happens when that takes place? The Ancient of Days. But this is what's getting ready to take place. Now my sons are listening because they heard me years ago saying how Israel is going to wake up at the end. By the time they get grown men, become grown men, they're going to wake up. All right? And they seeing it. We're all seeing this waking up, this enlightenment. All nations, not just our people, but everybody else is looking at us saying, are those the real Israelites? And it makes a lot of sense. The biggie is this one right here, Yahawah their Alahyim. The next thing is going to be, is that man right there, Yahawah their Alahyim? And I guarantee you, we just saw a picture of him. We saw him in Revelation chapter 4. He's the color of a jasper and a sardine stone. All right. And in Daniel chapter 7, he has woolly hair like the pure wool, wearing a white robe. Okay. So he has woolly hair like pure wool, the color of a jasper and sardine stone. Those are the signs he's given right there in the word, because he's a little different than Yahawah. Even though he puts Yahawah on, don't get me wrong now, he puts Yahawah on. But on his own, he's like a jasper and a sardine stone. Okay, that'll be another study. But Yahawah the Alahyim is going to be a human being. And how they're going to get back to Zion is through him. They ain't going there by themselves. They're going to get there through him. When Moses was on the earth at the time of Egypt, Moses was in his place. Moses was walking in Yahawah Alahyim's place. So just imagine Moses being Yahawah Alahyim. And at one time he told Moses, when Moses was saying that he couldn't do it to Yahawah, and he couldn't talk and all of that, he said, well, who's your brother Aaron, right? Well, he can speak well, can he? Okay, then let's do it like this. Aaron, you will be God to Aaron, and Aaron will be your prophet, and he will speak, he'll be your spokesman. So in a sense, Moses was walking in Yahawah's steps and what Yahawah would do in the latter days as a human being, but except it'd be much greater. Because there's a scripture in Jeremiah that says, no longer would they say the Lord liveth, which brought up the children of Israel out of Egypt. But the Lord liveth, which brought up the children of Israel from the north country, from all lands where he has scattered them. He's going to be like a Moses. He's literally going to bring Israel out of captivity. Right here it's saying it. My people have been lost sheep, their shepherds have caused them to go astray. And what we call Christianity has caused us to go astray, starting with the Inquisition, 400 years, 500 years ago, 600 years ago, with them carrying us off into slavery when we knew we were Israelites. Their shepherds have caused them to go astray. They have turned them away on the mountains. They have gone from mountain to hill. They have forgotten their resting place. So this is an order of things. They've caused them to go astray. They've turned them away on the mountains. They have gone from mountain to hill. They have forgotten their resting place. That's where we're at right now. And we're waking back up to it. We were realizing what our resting place really is. We're the people of Zion. We're the people of the book, of the Bible. And the Pope and them caused us to happen. They led us astray. Caused us to forget our resting place. All that found them devoured them, and the adversary said, we offend not. Because they have sinned against Yahawah, the habitation of justice, even Yahawah, the hope of their father. Now, I think this is what's going to happen in the latter days. When they realize it, what they have done to us, and they really come around to it, they're not going to say, hey, here's reparations. They're going to say, we offend not. Because they sinned against Yahawah. They broke his commandments. They broke his statutes and his judgments. Even Yahawah, the hope of their fathers. And this is what Yahawah said, remove out of the midst of Babylon and go forth out of the land of the Chaldeans and be as the he goes before the flock. While lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country, and they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. The arrows shall be as a mighty expert man, none shall return and be in vain. Those arrows are nuclear bombs. Verse 9. So this is nuclear war that he's basically prescribed for this situation that Babylon is guilty of destroying Yahawah's people. For lo, let me read that again. For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon, assembly of great nations from the north country. They shall set themselves in array against her, and then she shall be taken. Their arrows, nuclear bombs, shall be as a mighty expert man, none shall return in vain. And Chaldea should be a spoil, and all that spoil her should be satisfied, saith Yahawah. Because you are glad, because you rejoice, O you destroyers of mine heritage, because you are grown fat as an heifer, and grass, and bellow as bulls. And I'm not going to read much more on that, but you can see what's going to happen to the mystery Babylon. All right? Right there, it tells you, Jeremiah chapter 50, if you want to read some more of that, go ahead. Jeremiah 50, it tells you the destruction of this place over here that we know of as America. For what she done to Yahawah's people. Carrying her into captivity and destroying her identity and her resting place and everything, taking over her identity, as a matter of fact. We'll go to Revelation 19. This is the biting off of Jeremiah 50. And after these things, I heard a great voice of much people in heaven, saying, hallelujah, salvation, glory, and honor, and power unto Yahawah Alahyim. So there's Yahawah Alahyim again. They praise him in heaven, but true and righteous are his judgments, for he has judged a great whore, So who is the great whore? Mystery Babylon, the great mother of harlots, right? The true and righteous are his judgments, where he has judged the great whore, which did corrupt the earth with her fornication, and have avenged the blood of his servants at her hand. And again they said, Hallelujah, and her smoke rose up forever and ever. What smoke? From those bombs, those arrows. And the 24 elders and the 4 beasts fell down and worshiped God that sat on the throne, saying, Amen, Hallelujah. Yeah, they worship who? Now this is what we got to change from. We got to change from worshiping Jesus, not that we don't honor him, because in Revelation chapter 5, they honored him. But when they honored him, they still worship this person right here. They worship God that sat on the throne. This is Yahawah Alahyim. So that's when he's coming down in flesh, y'all. Coming down in flesh. And he won't be like Jesus, exactly. He doesn't have to be like Jesus. All right? And it looks like he is being washed. His iniquities and sins, whatever he's got on him, is being washed in the blood of the Lamb also. And you sit back and wonder, how in the world is he going to need blood washing from his sins if he's God? Sit back and wonder about that. But you know, when Yahawah came to the earth, Yahawah knew who he was. When this God comes down upon the earth in the beginning, he's not going to know who he is. He's going to be right around, he's going to be running around with his people. Okay? He's going to be running around with his people. He's going to be dwelling among his people. Now, he won't be just running around like a flunky. But, you know, he's going to be among his people. And a voice came out of the throne saying, Praise our God, all ye his servants, and ye that fear him, both small and great. Now this is really something else. This is really something else. And I'm talking about this on a regular because I really want this to get out there. I want people to realize that what's going to get us out of here, not only just knowing who we are, we're coming around to that. It's big time. It's big time nowadays, who we really are, our identity. I've been praying for that for years. But the major thing that's going to turn this world upside down is this God that sat on the throne. Going to be down here as a regular human being. Now we see in Genesis, it says, when it talks about the man's sin, Genesis chapter 3, it says the man has become like one of us to know good and evil. Which one up in heaven will know good and evil? The man has become like one of us to know good and evil. Now, unless he take of the tree of life and eat and live forever. See, that's what it says in Genesis chapter 3. So who in heaven will know good and evil? Come like one of us to know good and evil. Is it this God right here that sat on the throne with no good and evil? And this is what we got to know. This is what we're going to catch on to. And Yahawah was the lamb. His whole purpose was to come down here and live a righteous life and become the perfect lamb to wash us all from our sins. But this God that sat on the throne, when he comes down here, is he coming down here like that to wash us from our sins? No, it's already happened. It's already took place. He's coming down like as if he's one of us. And he takes out the enemy just by being like one of us. He even has a robe, as I said before, washed in the blood of the Lamb. So that means he had good and evil on it. And that's why he said about the man's become like one of us to know good and evil. So it's a great story, I'm telling you. It's hard for me to stop talking about it, you know. It's hard for me to stop talking about it because Yah has sent me to talk about it. And sometimes I try not to, but eventually it gets around. I get back around to it. That this man that sits on the throne is coming down here. He's the one that takes the mystery Babylon out when his people come unto him and seek him. But this time, if they just won't be looking up into heaven waiting on something to happen, he's going to be down here on earth. It won't be Moses or a prophet. It's going to be really the one that's from heaven, the one that created everything, coming down here as a regular human being. All right, one more chapter here. One more little area I want to go to. So yeah, I got a friend named Jerron. I'm not sure if he's still on, but he knows that it's time, that the time for Yahawah Alahyim to come is right now. You know, a few years ago, what was it, 2017, when they had that eclipse. When they had that eclipse, I think it was in August. It went all the way from one part of the country to the other part, the eclipse. And when this eclipse was going on around the country, they said that in 7 years, now check this out, in 7 years, there's going to be another one, and that will be 2024 from 2017. It's going to be another one that's going to go the other direction, and it's going to make an X across America. If you add the one in 2017 to the one that's in 2024, it makes an X across the country. What do you think that means? That the letter X, they say, is really, it looks like in our alphabetical system, it's the letter X, but it's not the last letter of the alphabet. But in the Hebrew, it's the letter Tav. It makes a Tav letter across America. And Tav in the Hebrew means the end. When he says, I'm the Aleph in the Tav, Aleph is the first letter in the Hebrew alphabet. Tav is the last letter. He says, I'm the Aleph in the Tav, the first and the last, the beginning and the end. So what do we got going on here in 2024? Now we're coming up on 2023. In 2024, we have that other eclipse. And Yah is sending us a sign. What is that sign all about? Is it that this is it? That America now is ended? Mystery Babylon is over? The great horror is done? Is that what he's talking about? Now, Isaiah 49, listen, O owls, unto me, and hearken, you people from afar. Yahawah has called me from the womb and from the bowels of my mother, as he made mention of my name. And when you look at this whole chapter, this person that's speaking, this ain't Jesus. You will see it as you read it. He had made my mouth like a sharp sword. Now Jesus had a mouth like a sharp sword. In the shadow of his hand he has hid me, and made me a polished shaft. His quiver he has hid me. And said unto me, thou art my servant, O Israel, whom I will be glorified. Then I said, I have labored in vain, I have spent my strength for naught, and in vain, yet surely my judgment with Yahawah and my work with my God. And now saith Yahawah that formed me from the womb to be his servant, to bring Jacob again to him. Though Israel be not gathered, yet shall I be glorious in the eyes of Yahawah, and my God shall be my strength. And as you read this whole chapter about this person right here, that basically was hidden in Yahawah's hand and all of this stuff, you realize it ain't Yahawah, all right, from some of the stuff that he's spoken. All right, it ain't Yahawah. Nobody's able to take this as Yahawah. Who is this person? And this is the one that brings Jacob back again unto Yahawah. We read that again. Now saith Yahawah that formed me from the womb to be his servant, to bring Jacob again to him. Though Israel be not gathered, yet shall I be glorious in the eyes of Yahawah my God. My Alahyim shall be my strength. And he says, a light thing that thou shouldst be my servant to raise up the tribes of Jacob, to restore the preserved of Israel. I will give thee for a light to the Gentiles, that thou mayest be my salvation to the end of the earth. This is that Yahawah Alahyim. This is that Yahawah manifesting himself as a human being. Thus saith Yahawah, the Redeemer of Israel, his Holy One, to whom man despiseth, to whom the nation abhorreth, to a servant of rulers, kings shall see, and arise, and princes shall worship, because of Yahawah that is faithful, and the Holy One of Israel, and he shall choose thee. This is him right here. This is Yahawah right here. Now, like I said, this is what the converts know about what's coming. And they're right on it. But that is not, he's not coming for them. He's coming for the ones that are still scattered among the nations. Okay? He's coming for the ones scattered. And watch this. It shows you, and this is Isaiah 42. It shows you it's not Yahawah. Watch this. And this is him again right here. Behold my servant in whom I uphold, mine elect in whom my soul delighteth. I put my spirit upon him, and he shall bring forth judgment to the Gentiles. Watch this. He shall not cry. Verse 2. Shall not cry, nor lift up, nor cause his voice to be heard in the street. Come on now. All right. Is that Jesus or Yahawah? Let me read it again. He shall not cry, nor lift up, nor cause his voice to be heard in the street. Jesus is all over them streets. He's preaching it from the mountaintop and everything. But this one shall not cry, nor lift up, nor cause his voice to be heard in the street. Who is this? A bruised reed shall he not break, nor and a smoking flax shall he not quench. He shall bring forth judgment to truth. He shall not fail, nor be discouraged till he hath put judgment in the earth, and the owls shall wait for his law. Thus saith Yahawah, or Alahyim Yahawah, he that created the heavens and stretched them out, he that spread forth the earth, and that cometh up out of it, he that giveth breath unto the people upon it, and spirit to them that walk therein. I, Yahawah, have called thee in righteousness, and will hold thine hand, and will keep thee and give thee for a covenant of the people, and for a light of the Gentiles. Who is this talking about? That will not be heard in the street. Nor cry, nor lift up, nor cause his voice to be heard in the street. To open the blind eyes, to bring out the prison from the prison, and them that sit in darkness out of the prison house. I, Yahawah, that is my name. So who is that person? Yahawah. That is my name, my glory will I not give to another, neither my praise of graven images. Behold, the former things are come to pass, new things do I declare, before they could bring forth, I tell you of them. So this is what the converts understand about this person is coming. Voice said, cry, and he said, what shall I cry? Now the voice from heaven is talking to him. Cry, and he said, what shall I cry? And the person told him, said, all flesh is grass, and all the goodness thereof is the flower of the field. The grass withereth, the flower fadeth, because the spirit of Yahawah bloweth upon it. Surely the people is grass. The grass withereth, the flower fadeth, but the word of Yahawah, or Alahyim, shall stand forever. Now watch this. Now this is that same person. We're reading about the same person. And Isaiah is talking about the one at the end, not the one that came and died on the cross already. But the one at the end, this is what he's talking about. O Zion, he calls him Zion, verse 9, Isaiah 40, verse 9, that bringeth good tidings, get thee up into the high mountain. O Jerusalem, calls him Jerusalem, that bringeth good tidings, lift up thy voice with strength. Lift it up, be not afraid. This one, this ain't Yahawah, because you don't have to tell Yahawah to not be afraid. That's when I say this person had basically wiped his own memory, took out his own memory of being Yahawah, and came down here as just like one of his people. Lift up thy voice with strength, lift it up, be not afraid. You don't have to tell Yahawah to not be afraid. He was not afraid. But this one, this man, he's telling him not to be afraid. Many people say, that ain't Yahawah Alahyim. Yahawah Alahyim ain't afraid either. Well, if you took your own memory out and basically made everything like as if you're just a regular human being for the purpose of salvation, you would be afraid. Okay? You'd be afraid to go up on the mountain of Zion and Jerusalem, which is a hotbed for conflict, and tell folks that behold, watch this, be not afraid, say unto the cities of Judah, watch this, behold your God. What? He used to go up on the mountain of Zion and Jerusalem and tell the cities of Judah, behold your God. Who's God? He's talking about he is God. The one that he told not to be afraid is their God. He's the God of Israel. The one that was in Exodus chapter 24 that had the stone upon his feet like a sapphire stone. It's come down now in the human flesh and it's telling the folks that he's their God. Let me read that again. O Zion, that bringeth good tidings. Get thee up into the high mountain, O Jerusalem, that bringeth good tidings. Lift up thy voice with strength. Lift it up, be not afraid. Say unto the cities of Judah, behold your God. Yeah. So this is that person right here. He's written about all throughout the scriptures, but we don't realize who it's talking about. Or we think it's talking about the wrong person. But to the end, it's talking about Yahawah, talking about Mashiach Nagid, Messiah ben David. That's what it's talking about. So that's what we're headed to, y'all. And this is what the converts to Judaism recognize. They know that this is talking about that one that's coming in the latter days. We had the slightest clue. But we're going to know in the end, according to Jeremiah chapter 50, and we're going to go weeping, mourning and weeping and seeking, because he's going to be on the earth at that time. And the voice is telling him, go up on the mountain of Judah and say, well, notice it say unto the cities of Judah, behold your God. Because guess who he's going to be more like? He's going to be like the people of Judah. And if we know who the people of Judah are, these African Americans, guess what he's going to be like? If he's going to be in captivity with his people, guess where he's going to be at? Where Judah is, what Judah's at. All right. This is enough of this. Shabbat is pretty much almost over there. And it got Lila out there, almost perfectly dark. Praise Yahawah for his word, for his purpose, and that it's going to be fulfilled. And praise Yahawah that our people are waking up to the identity. But Judah, behold your God. He's coming. He's coming. Rejoice at this right here. He's coming. He's your God. And he's going to be the one that takes you home. All right. All right, everybody. Shabbat Shalom for whatever is left of the day. All right. Take it easy.